this, of course, this weekend is the Royal Rumble, which starts the road to WrestleMania, but you've got stuff going on all over the wrestling world. And to help me break it all down, joining me on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline, you hear him every weekday on Wrestling Observer Live with Bryan Alvarez. I have said before, and I'll say it again, he is the voice of reason for that very fine program. You also hear him on the Mid-Atlantic podcast, kind of reminiscing all about all things Mid-Atlantic wrestling back in the great good old days, as we say. He is Mike Sempervive. Follow him on Twitter at Sempervive. What's up, Semp? How you doing, man?
Hey, I can't complain, Stu. How's it going, my man?
It's going. All right, before we get into everything else in wrestling, I just had Dave LaGreca on. We were talking Royal Rumble, so I got to get your picks for the two Rumble matches. I think the odds right now are on Big E and Bianca Belair for the winners. What say you?
I think Bianca's one of them for sure. Absolutely. I think she's one of them. And I think the question is, who does she go on and face? And is it the main event? And, there's rumblings from what some people theorize, from some people inside WWE. They think it's going to be Charlotte and Ronda, which... Okay. I like Bianca and Ronda a lot more than that. I really do. I think that's something that could be super intriguing and could close one of the WrestleMania nights and have Brock and Roman close the other one. So it's going to be really interesting here. Ronda Rousey winning this thing, it makes a lot of sense to me with, what they want to hot shot, I'm sure, and what they want media wise going into WrestleMania for sure. And I think her tossing Bianca or something like that could be something hot you could do, or, right. With Charlotte, there's something you can do there. When it comes to the men, I think Bobby Lashley is going to take that belt off of Brock Lesnar. And I think we're going to get Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. I think that's the direction they're going to go. If they're not going to unify titles, just makes sense. You're going to have to get the belt off of Brock so he can go after Roman and do whatever it is they're going to do there. So to me, Lashley is a believable person. Then you can take the belt off of Brock, and Big E and Lashley go ahead and run it back. I mean, that's going to make a lot of people happy, I think. I'd like to see Lashley and somebody else, but the problem is they really don't have anybody else, So, and I think they're going to have Owens and Rollins against each other. Drew's out. So, unfortunately, it's a numbers game, and if I'm left with Big E and Lashley, I'll take it, because it's like if I'm left with the New Day and the Usos, which for a long time I was, they even though it's like, all right, here we go again, they still found a way to make it fun. So I think you can do that with Lashley and MVP running his mouth and Big E firing back. I think that's absolutely something you could do.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, if the rumors come to fruition and Ronda Rousey does show up at the Rumble, that's going to change a lot of things on the women's side, but we'll wait and see. And the other thing, and I'm going to be probably the one outlier. Ronda Rousey returning to WWE and the Rumble does not excite me, honestly, because if she does, they're going to book her the same way they booked her the last time. She's going to be the female Brock, and she's going to win everything, and she'll never lose. So I kind of find that a little boring, honestly. I mean, I know I'm probably in the vast minority, but what do you think?
Well, I think it comes down to how long does she stick around for. If she's only sticking around for a little bit after Mania, then to me, she better put Bianca or Charlotte over, you know what I mean, and get out. And I think for a Bianca, that would be a big deal. If she's going to stick around afterwards, then yeah, you're going to have to expect the Lesnar Goldberg treatment with her, because she's Ronda Rousey. Now one of the silver lining benefits of that may be we get a renewed push from Shayna Baszler, or for Shayna Baszler at her side. That would be nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If Io Shirai comes up, which there is banter about, her coming up and being involved in the Rumble and then possibly coming up to the main roster, You certainly have something there with those two, that you could, I find fascinating if you throw her in the mix with all these other uber athletes that WWE has. So I don't know, Sasha Banks, I guess she's out right now, but I don't know how long she's going to be out for,
Yeah.
so it's like, again, you have some room to maneuver there. That's for sure.
Right. All right.
And if you play it right, there's some good people there.
There is some good people,
Or good,
but
we're not obviously good people, but there's some good results you could get out of that, is what I'm trying to say.
right, I get
Thoroughly
that.
here.
And like I said, if she can get into the mindset of, yes, I'm gonna, and it's in, and like I said, one of the things I'm really interested in is seeing how she reacts when she does have to put somebody over, or she has to take the pinfall on somebody, because we haven't really seen that outside of the WrestleMania main event a couple years ago. And, she took pinfall and she was gone. That was it. So we haven't really seen her react to an actual pinfall. So that's going to be one of the things I'm going to look for.
Especially in this new wacky McMahon land we're in right now, where it's upside down.
Oh God, yes. Yeah. Let's talk a little AEW. Jon Moxley made his big return last week. Had the promo. I mean, it was one of those promos that made you want to run into a brick wall. And I think everybody outside of Bully Ray seemed, just absolutely, ecstatic. And then, of course, he had the match that was on Rampage, where he gave Ethan Page a lot of shine. But in the end, of course, Moxley wins. Give me your thoughts on Mox. I think we've seen the side-by-sides where he definitely looks healthier than he did when he left. And hopefully, assuming he can control his demons, looks like he is back and raring to go on another big run.
Looks a zillion times healthier. Just, a new man in the face, just everything about him, just a glow coming back. And, he's got all the reasons in the world for sure, with his new family and his baby and his wife, and then the job comes into play, and all of his friends and all that stuff. He's got a lot of reasons to keep going, as we all do, even if we don't believe that we do. And he's a great symbol for them, and a great redemption story, a guy who knew when he needed to step back and go, hey, I got an issue here, and I think that's, that really is to be celebrated. And him getting heckled right off the bat, good. This is a kid who's from CZW, you know what I'm saying? Like he had a bad upbringing in a lot of ways, man, and he's talked about that. And for him to get that, it was almost like good, and then it was like, hey, get that guy out of here. And he cursed on national TV, and he took the starch out of Jericho's GFY catchphrase and t-shirt he's trying to sell. And then he went out there, like you mentioned, cut that Jon Moxley promo. And how do you not root for that guy? How is he not the baby face? And I think they know that, because now they got him crossed up with Bryan Danielson, who is definitely a heel, who can definitely pluck at Jon Moxley. And I think that could be fantastic. So we're going to see how that one plays itself out. But I thought, good play by all right there. And, even Page Homicide, I watched Jon Moxley, the next night go out there and go against Homicide. And it's, it's a hell of a thing when you see Jon Moxley live and see, the hold he has on people.
Yeah. I like I said, it's just, he just has that personality that, and yeah, you mentioned, him, walking by Bryan Danielson. I mean, we've seen Daniel Bryan versus Dean Ambrose before, but it's been a long time since we've seen Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley, and that's going to be a lot of fun to see.
Honestly, Stu, we're in such a bizarre time to be juxtaposed with the Attitude Era beginning of WWE, over the top, outdated, overly colorful, ridiculously gimmicked up characters. And it's like, remember that with Freddie Joe Floyd and the Goon and TL Hopper and all this stuff. And it's like, here we are doing the same thing with NXT, with a lot of what's taking place with WWE, and now you have like the GCWs and AEW aside, like, you know, they're like they really are WCW and all this, with the huge roster, and you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes you get the hot opener, and sometimes you don't see a guy for a couple of weeks, and you know, for some reason, Dante Martin's had 74 coaches and mentors. And I mean, it's like, you know, and with GCW, you have this thing where it is like ECW, and they're bringing back old people. And it's just like, it boggles my mind, like talking about the Rumble going into it after the weekend I just had, and talking about AEW and what's going on there with Punk and Danielson. It's like, it's such a weird, it's bizarre that we're like back in that era of like what's real right now. You know, Daniel Garcia was truly the independent wrestler of the year. PWI gave it to Nick Gage, obviously, because Nick Gage was on Dark Side of the Ring, and indie wrestling became the thing. Everybody's got a story on indie wrestling, you know, or hardcore wrestling being accepted now in 2022. And I don't know about that. Ask the New York State Athletic Commission about that one. But you know, it's like, you know, Daniel Garcia is real. Eddie Kingston is a real person that you can relate to, or that a lot of people can relate to. Jon Moxley, same way. Like, I mean, that's what actually is winning right now, what is really grabbing people. And even Adam, the funny part about Adam Page is, for as many people as kind of bury his drunken storyline, essentially what it was it was a cosplay version of, essentially, you know, kind of a lot of real life stories we see in independent wrestling. It depends on what your perspective is and how you might look at some things. So it's like, even that was tried to be, it was a play off of reality. It wasn't as much into it as Eddie Kingston can bring you, but in a way that was their storyline play of it. So it's like the WWE are the only ones who don't get this, except when they do something like they did on Monday with Lashley and with Brock Lesnar, where they have that video that is completely different and juxtaposed with everything else almost they did on the show, right down to, even though it was entertaining as hell, the Alpha Academy deal with Randy Orton and Matt Riddle. And I don't know how I got off on this tangent. I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, but you're right. And it's kind of funny how you know, you mentioned Lashley and Brock. That has been the one pro wrestling aspect of what we have seen from WWE, which, and I don't know if you saw the deal from What Culture, and even my co-host Justin Simmons says WWE is not a wrestling company. They are a content company who puts on a show about a company trying to do wrestling. Whereas you got AEW, GCW, the Independents, Ring of Honor, Impact, that are actually wrestling companies. And you just mentioned that. Yeah, you had Brock and Bobby. That was a pro wrestling moment. That was, you know, pure and just, you know, ready, setting up a fight. And then you go back to the sports entertainment with Alpha Academy and RK Bro. So you were at the GCW event at the Hammerstein Ballroom in Manhattan. And I heard some of your stuff on Wrestling Observer talking about, you know, it was good. It wasn't, you know, obviously they couldn't go full GCW because of the commission there in New York. But it was still good. You know,
it's never good to go full GCW.
Believe me, I was so when GCW came to Austin, this would have been maybe a couple years ago, and it was right before the pandemic, you know, hit. And I got asked to come out and be the fill-in ring announcer, which I was ecstatic, but oh boy. And, you know, Texas does not regulate professional wrestling. So, you know, everything goes. And when Nick Gage comes out and puts Alley Cat through a plate glass window, and I'm still trying to get out of the ring. That's the fastest I've ever gotten out of a ring by far. It was a little scary. I mean, it was fantastic, but it was a little scary. So, but I'm saying it to say, so they had that, and then you also had the fact that they were on traditional pay-per-view in addition to Fight TV, which meant they ran up against time limits. You mentioned the the Briscoes and Matt Tremont and Nick Gage, that seemed to got cut short to about 5 minutes and didn't get the time it should have gotten. Do you see GCW kind of taking that role? And I hate to evoke it, but kind of the ECW of the 2020s as the, for lack of a better term, kind of a third big brand. And it's kind of hard to say because they don't have a TV deal where Impact has one, Ring of Honor has one. They're, supposedly coming back. But could you see GCW kind of at least in that conversation?
To me, GCW is number 3, and I know, I'm a little bit of a fanboy for them, but I honestly believe that even without TV that they're number 3, because on the Fight TV numbers, rumor has it that they are, a hell of a lot stronger than anything NWA does or a lot of other groups do. They've been able to stand out. Their fan base is rabid. It's loyal. It's obvious, that this is that show, that Hammerstein show that was more for them and their fans to say we made it. Now, it was a showcase because once you make the Hammerstein, with rent costs and everything else, it makes sense to put it on pay-per-view. It made sense to do that. Now, there were the obvious drawbacks to that, which is you're running in New York. You do lose some of the feel of GCW because you at least have usually, it's not every show, but on a lot of shows, you have a death match with a storyline going into it. Right now it's Alex Colon and John Wayne Murdoch with Akira, being stuck on this outside in this triangle that they have going on. So it's like they have, that's usually a portion of the show. Jimmy Lloyd doing something crazy with somebody or something like that. Like that's going to be a part of the show. And they couldn't do that. And there is a drama. There is a danger. There is a lot there where a properly, it's bizarre. I can talk about this now because I didn't like death matches for so long. And I'm not saying that I love them or anything like that, but there's a, I look at these things a little bit differently now, and I understand what their place is on the card. And I understand that GCW is moving away from this and doing more storyline things. They still are going to have this because there's a niche to be filled, and that's what makes them different. They are going to actually do this stuff, and it is not going to be for everybody, but you are going to get Scorpio. You're going to get Ricky Morton. You're going to get guys from the past that are coming back and doing things. Jeff Jarrett. You're going to get Effie because they don't care. You want, to see gay wrestlers and inclusivity. You're going to see Dark Sheik. You're going to see, a litany of people. You want to see intergender that actually makes sense. Watch Janai Kai kick the shit out of somebody. Watch. Right. There is a variety of things that make GCW special. And I don't know if all of those things were on display at the Hammerstein. I don't think they really showcased what they could have, but you know what? It was also kind of in a lot of ways an authentic GCW show, which is okay. Now we're on to the next one, right. And I don't know how many they gained. I don't think they lost anybody. That's for sure. And I think some people probably were intrigued enough to give them more of a chance again. And I think spring break, realistically, that's the weekend where it comes down to GCW really is able to show off because did you see the last Bloodsport show in LA?
I did not. I heard about it, but I didn't see it. No.
Watch, if you get a chance, or if anybody gets a chance out there, watch that weekend of shows. Watch the Bloodsport show, which was phenomenal. It was the best one yet. Filthy Tom Lawler, which there's another part of the reality thing, Stu.
Right.
New Japan is stronger than New Japan. Why? Because of the teachings of Shibata. And you see Alex Coughlin, and you see Tom Lawler, and you see who are the kids? Yu Mura, and you see these kids that are amazing. Carl Fredericks. They're stars. They're going to be stars. And again, it's based in the reality of everything. And that's, again, it drives me nuts that, the big guy can't see this and WWE can't see this right now. Just, it absolutely kills me. But,
yeah,
again, I think for some people, nothing is going to be good enough when it comes to GCW. And there was obviously issues with Nick Wayne that were somebody calls the New York State Athletic Commission on
Right.
that, and the New
Because
York
he's
State Athletic
underage. Right.
Commission, as we record this, myself, John Pollock, David Bixenspan, there's a lot of us who have been looking at this, the story, and I guess I kind of broke it, but there's other people working on it where it's like, he wrestled in Queens in September.
Mm-hmm.
Like, other people have done things in the ring. It's like, do you know what your rule is? Because you contradict yourself in the rules. It contradicts, it has a rule about combat sport.
Yeah.
Then it's got another passage that says professional wrestling is not combat sport. It's exhibition. So what are we doing here? And that's where, again, this is moved from somebody dropping dime on Nick, because it ended up being a golden parachute for him, because he ends up getting him Will Ospreay.
Yeah.
Joey Janela says, and he's one of the most well-protected people in all of wrestling right now. Nick Wayne is. So many people love him, and so many people want to look out for him. So, he gets that. So now this is moved from really a Nick Wayne issue into a, forget about who the cop caller was, into an issue of whether New York actually, what is the rule here? What is the clarification? And do the people that enforce these rules actually know what they are? Right. And I'm not even saying that in a nasty way. I'm saying it in a bureaucratic way where, did the boxing side of the commission rule on something and they thought it was going to apply to everything, but it didn't apply to this or that? And it's like, what is going on here?
And that's why a lot of states don't regulate it. And I'll bring it back to Texas. Roxy, who was, until recently the Ring of Honor Women's World Champion. She started with Reality Wrestling with Booker T School at the age of 16 and was wrestling on independent cards in Texas. I saw her several times. I saw her here in Austin, saw her in Dallas, whatever. The kicker, obviously, as I mentioned, Texas does not regulate professional wrestling. There is no in the combative sports realm. It's boxing, MMA, Muay Thai, kickboxing. There is nothing with professional wrestling because it's considered an exhibition. It's considered entertainment. So there is no authority to call on a 16-year-old Roxy who's wrestling, at Pinball's Kingdom in Buda for Mission Pro or something like that. So I get that. And I think that's going to be something that we could see over the next several years, the different states that still regulate professional wrestling, looking at how much they need to regulate it, how much, because
that's the thing is, if this is coming down to the dollar, like, give us a fee to pay you every year to stay away, because to me, if you're going to, and this is just my opinion looking at this situation now, how it's playing out, if you are concerned about the safety of a young man participating in professional wrestling, and that is something I completely understand, then why don't you set up some protocols in place where these promoters can in advance send in an application for a young person who is trying to earn a living, which you are able to work. And I don't know what age in New York, but I'd say maybe 14. I don't know, 12 in a family business. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy rules that, take place. At the very least 15, Nick 16. Well, so at that point, if you send in an application, let's check this kid out. What is this kid's situation? What is his family like? Does he come from a wrestling background? Are these like luchadors? Are these like the Mysterios, the Guerreros? What kind of family is this? Oh, has he grown up in this? Oh, has he shown aptitude from a young age that's provable on videotape that this is what this kid seems to be made to do? And then you look at the promoter that's bringing him in. Let's check them out, because we are supposed to be legislating this stuff, right? We're supposed to be overseeing this. So let's do our jobs here. Seems to be pretty simple to me. That would be a simple way to do this. Otherwise, do you just want money? We'll give you money, and here you go. but stay out of the way, because again, if you're not going to take this seriously and you're only going to worry about it when somebody calls and then somebody doesn't know what's going on because they don't know the rule, and they go, hold up, because there was no hold up when they ran and he wrestled in September. So why now?
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
And that's, as I vent with
right. Show. Hey, let's wrap up with this. And it kind of goes into the whole independent wrestling realm, because it's said 1,000 times, Royal Rumble is the start of the road to WrestleMania. WrestleMania, first weekend in April, coming to Dallas, actually coming to Arlington. Yeah, Jerry World. Believe me, I've been there 1,000 times. And of course, that weekend is usually kind of that's the big showcase of all independent wrestling. And I've seen, you mentioned GCW, the Collective, and I've seen all the bunch of different Texas promotions that are going to run up in the DFW area. I saw Gulf Coast. I've seen New Texas Pro, even IHWE, who they've been dormant for the last few years. They're coming back with a show. We had kind of the brakes were put on it in 2020 because of the pandemic. It just started. Last year, we saw a little bit come back in Tampa. But for all intents and purposes, this will be the first weekend where it's going to come back in full force. Whatever your thoughts on Texas's handling of the pandemic. But
it don't matter at this point. Everybody else is just fake and being hypocritical about it. If you want to move to something, you're moving to it, even if you're doing it hush hush. So you can say you didn't do it, but everybody's doing it. Come on. Right. Now.
But I want to get your take on, is this, because we've seen independent wrestling coming back, and you've seen whether it's GCW or Pro Wrestling Guerrilla or AEW, or, like I said, some of the Texas promotions. The one I do commentary for, Inspire After Dark, they just came back, and I think they're going to have a match sometime during that weekend. Is this going to be kind of not only WrestleMania, it's going to be hey, independent wrestling is back? Is this going to be that kind of weekend?
Yeah. Because you know what threatens GCW is the third promotion to me instantly is the return of Ring of Honor. And I think Ring of Honor comes back possibly with a vengeance, because they have to.
Right.
They got to make that TV interesting. And when you've dumped all your contracts, you have a bunch of money in your pockets, in theory, you are the most powerful single indie wrestling You're the smallest micro brew, promotion out there. You know what I mean? They outdistance everybody. So if Chris Hero is, and I don't know who's there, but Chris Hero was backstage there and he was a player. Let's say they get Samoa Joe in as a brain and he wants to wrestle and he's able to do something. He wants to stick around, and you bring the Briscoes back and you ink a deal with them where you got a verbal deal for X amount of time. And you take, now all of a sudden you can outspend anybody on any weekend, especially weekends when regionally you got stuff popping, like when Beyond's running in the Northeast on a Thursday, Friday, or Thursday, whatever it is. And that weekend also AAW's running and Defy's running. And GCW's running a double shot weekend somewhere. And it's like, there's only so much talent to go around. Now, there's a lot of talent to go around, and I think the indies are going to be just fine that way. But, ROH, in theory, can throw their weight around, and their reboot is going to have to be what they thought their reboot was going to be 2 years ago, which was, it's going to look different with this powerful Impact. They've got to make it. GCW is going to throw every show at the wall, from Bloodsport to Effie's Big Gay Brunch to whatever it is. They're going to put everything against the wall. Everybody that this year is going to show out, because there's going to be so much competition. And you did mention, shows will come back out of nowhere. Promotions will come back out of nowhere because it's a chance to get a taste and to get a piece of the pie. And WWE is going to make that more difficult, apparently, on Saturday by having NXT during the day. I think that's suicide. I think, that would have been a move that I think would have been an incredible FU tactic to everybody, saying, okay, everybody that's come down to make money off of us, we're going to load up Friday with the Hall of Fame and this, that, and the third. And then Saturday, we're going to do NXT. And then the, first night of WrestleMania. I mean, they could have burnt people out, because who wouldn't want to see that old style of NXT? You know what I'm saying? That's at least something that people might want to go see. And the hardcores might want to go see on a weekend like that, where there's a lot of competition. This way, with Lash Legend and Tony D'Angelo, and yeah, there's going to be some good people on there. You get a chance to see Braun Breaker and whoever, but like, you know what I mean? Like, if there's probably going to be 2 other indie shows going on that are like kicking its ass.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think they just shot themselves in the foot with that one.
Yeah, I think you're right. NXT, if they run that day, I wonder where they're going to run. I guess they could run. There's the Arlington Convention Center, or now it's called the Esports Arena. That is maybe 2 minutes from AT&T Stadium. I guess they could run there, but I can't imagine what kind of crowd they're going to get with, if you believe all the reports that WWE's been disappointed in NXT 2.0 and they're trying to fix it or whatever. I don't know. It's going to be nuts. And, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to heading up I-35 and seeing some good independent wrestling. And yeah, I plan to be at the Ring of Honor show. So,
and pro wrestling, I mean, that weekend, even if WWE stinks, it was always, to me as a fan, we called it kayfabe week. WrestleMania would roll around and we would roll out OVCR tapes and we would geek out all week. And then we just completely, doing whatever it is we were going to do while, leading up to watching, WrestleMania. And it was like the big blow off. And it has evolved for a lot of people to, WrestleMania and WWE is just the muse.
Yeah.
For you to go then experience what you really love about professional wrestling, which is all this cool stuff and wonderful stuff that takes place on the indies. And by the way, just once again, I say it every time I'm on here, I think we've brought her name up every time. Thunder Rosa. Oh my heavens. I don't know if you saw the GCW show. I guess you didn't, but that battle royal, the pre-match battle royal, she was announced. And once again, the most over person not named Moxley or Gage on that roster. She's the most over person almost everywhere she goes. She is a phenomenon. Right now, Thunder Rosa's just what a star. What a star.
I couldn't agree more. We're lucky we got her just down the road in San Antonio, and she comes to Austin quite a bit. And, of course, she's got Mission Pro Wrestling, and they're running this weekend, and they've been, starting to become kind of one of the name promotions, especially being an all-female promotion. They're doing really well, and I couldn't be happier for her and Bryan and everybody with Mission Pro. And it's gonna be fun to watch her that weekend. He is Mike Sempervive. Catch him weekdays on Wrestling Observer Live, wherever you get Wrestling Observer Live, be it Sports Byline, Twitch, YouTube, whatever. Also catch him on the Mid-Atlantic Championship Podcast, wherever you get your podcast, and follow him on Twitter at Sempervive. Mike, man, it's always great to chop it up with you. All the best to you, and thanks for joining me, and we'll talk again soon.
So I appreciate it anytime, my man.